Mangwana ni mwalelepo vukenjani kleklas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show that remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. Later in the show, we will be joined by Rorisang Mogojwe, as she says Dumela, from Botswana, delivering the Botswana Report. But prior to that, these are some of the top stories we're looking at. Nigeria presses South Africa to tackle xenophobic violence against migrants. Ghana begins final evacuation of nationals from South Africa. Kenya holds back UK defense deal amid troop accountability dispute. Cameroon opposition questions President Biya's prolonged stay in Geneva. And Marvel reveals new Black Panther as major Comic-Con announcements unfold. And of course, the biggest tournament that is currently taking place in the world is the Women's Africa Cup of Nations happening in Morocco. And we had an incredible evening of 11 goals in total. Malawi getting the best of champions, Nigeria with a surprise last-minute goal, and Barbara Banda, the lady in that picture, scoring 4 goals as Zambia beat Egypt 6-0. This is still Africa Good Morning, and as you know, our correspondent Mike Sichula is in Zambia and would like to say Kuchalo as the Copper Queens continue to do their thing. Top story shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
So it's Africa Good Morning on the 29th of July. As you know, throughout the year, particularly from around March, we've been documenting the anti-immigration marches in South Africa, and there's been significant backlash from across the continent. Now, Nigeria has urged South Africa to strengthen efforts to stop xenophobic attacks on Nigerians and other African migrants, warning that repeated violence is placing pressure on relations between the two countries while raising questions over whether the government is complicit. The remarks were made during talks in Abuja between Nigerian officials and the South African delegation led by Special Envoy and International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola. Nigeria's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Sola Enika no Laie, said President Bola Tinubu directed the meeting to address what Abuja described as persistent Afrophobic attacks targeting Nigerians and other African migrants in South Africa. South African vigilantes have attacked foreign nationals and looted foreign-owned shops on numerous occasions in recent months, with many South Africans blaming immigrants for crime and unemployment. At least 4 people have been killed, while anti-immigrant protesters marched in several South African cities after calling for undocumented migrants to leave. Nigerian officials said at least 1,490 Nigerians have been evacuated since the latest outbreak. Here's a video from that meeting between Abuja and Pretoria in Nigeria.
This xenophobic attack had gone beyond, attack on criminals. We have record of Nigerians who have legitimate papers to remain in South Africa, yet they have been attacked. And we could see some mob actions which we saw the police watching as if they are helpless to address this situation, which to us raises issues of state responsibility. It raises the issues of complicity.
President Ramaphosa and the government he leads have been unspoken against any intolerance, including xenophobia, racism, homophobia, violence, discrimination directed at individuals within our borders. President Ramaphosa has also been very firm on South Africa's sovereign right to enforce immigration laws, including to deal decisively with irregular migration, undocumented immigrants, including acts of criminality that is sometimes committed within our borders.
All right, moving on, but staying with the same subject, Ghana says they are repatriating another 1,000 nationals from South Africa because of the ongoing anti-migrant sentiment in the country. According to Accra, special flights bringing migrant workers home are scheduled to arrive this week as the final phase of its evacuation program. Now, Ghana has already repatriated more than 900 nationals and says it will seek compensation from the South African government for property and assets lost during the unrest. The country has also petitioned the International Criminal Court to investigate attacks against foreigners, arguing that they could constitute crimes against humanity. Ghana and Nigeria have further called on the African Union to place the matter on the agenda of the next African Union summit. More than 160,000 foreigners have left South Africa since May following violent anti-immigrant protests. South Africa has for years attracted migrants from across the continent because of its relative wealth, but rising unemployment has fueled anger towards foreign workers. Ghana says the latest evacuation marks the conclusion of its planned operation to return nationals affected by the continued anti-migrant sentiment and violence reported in South Africa during recent months. Now, let's get into the story between the UK and Kenya. Britain has cancelled a planned military training exercise in Kenya after Nairobi declined to ratify a new bilateral defense agreement, with the two countries remaining divided over legal jurisdiction, troop accountability, and the terms governing Britain's military presence. The dispute centers on Kenya's demand for greater authority to prosecute British soldiers accused of serious offenses committed in the country, while negotiations have also stalled over financial arrangements for hosting the British Army training unit Kenya near Nanyuki. As a result, a major exercise involving the British Army's 1st Battalion, Duke of Lancaster's Regiment, scheduled for September, will no longer take place in Kenya after the required licenses were not issued. The troops will instead train at another location outside the country. Nelson Koech, chair of Kenya's National Assembly Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee, said both governments were actively working to resolve the outstanding issues. A UK Ministry of Defense spokesperson said Britain regretted relocating the exercise but remained committed to maintaining its defense partnership with Kenya. Now, Cameroon's President Paul Biya, who is over the age of 90, has come under renewed criticism following a weeks-long stay in Switzerland. According to an official statement, Biya left on 7 June with his wife for what was described as a short private stay. The 93-year-old leader, who has been in power for more than 40 years and is the world's oldest head of state, has made several trips to Geneva over the years. His health has continued to attract speculation, although the Cameroonian government insists he is well. Responding to reports published in June, the country's communication minister denied that the president had been hospitalized in Geneva. Opposition figure Mamadou Motin described Biya's absence as a glaring institutional vacuum, while Cameroon Democratic Union President Patricia Tomaino Ndama Njoya called on the government to establish an impartial procedure for determining the temporary or permanent incapacity of the head of state. The latest criticism follows similar concerns raised in late 2024 when Biya faced scrutiny after spending 50 days outside the country. All right, it's now time for us to talk to the comic book lovers. For those who have enjoyed Shuri's reign as Black Panther, and of course those who loved Chadwick Boseman, there's some good news. There's a new Black Panther on the block. Marvel Studios used its Comic-Con International presentation to announce David Johnson as the new Black Panther, portraying the son of Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa, while also confirming Ryan Gosling will play Ghost Rider in the film's planned for release in 2028. Johnson appeared on stage alongside Ryan Coogler, Letitia Wright, and Winston Duke ahead of the scheduled release of Black Panther 3 on 15 December 2028. The actor thanked the franchise while saying he wanted the screen to do the talking. Since Boseman's death in 2020 and the reveal in Black Panther Wakanda Forever that T'Challa had a son, fans had speculated over who would inherit the mantle. Marvel also announced that Avengers Endgame will return to cinemas on 25 September. Now, for those of you who are not comic nerds like myself, I can let you know that we've been reading the Black Panther comics for a long time. And Stan Lee was obviously the creator of the Black Panther franchise. And if you have watched the movie or read the comics, you know that Wakanda is an enclosed space in which they keep vibranium, as well as their beautiful city, which is economically bustling. What's interesting is that it's documented that Stan Lee got the inspiration for Wakanda by observing the great Zimbabwe ruins. This is still Africa Good Morning. After the break, Rorisang Mogojwe joins us.
AITSA is 'n Namibiese inisiatief. Ons reis op die hartklop van Afrika en vertel stories van mense en hulle dorpe op verskeie platforms insluitende televisie en sosiale media. Dit is joune, syne, julle en ook almal van hulle aan die ander kant van ons grense sinne. En dit maak AITSA 'n lekker ding. Kyk AITSA maande om 18:30 op NTV102.com as ook op Netwerk Media Hub en NTV Afrikaans se YouTube kanale. Volg ons op Facebook of besoek ons webwerf by AITSAFRIKA.com.
All right, it's time for us to get into the Botswana Report with Rorisang Mogojwe. And if it's okay, we're going to go straight into the stories. DIS is warning that youth unemployment is becoming a national security risk in Botswana.
The Director General of the Directorate of Intelligence and Security Services, Brigadier Peter Mahosi, sounded the alarm while appearing before the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee, saying that prolonged unemployment, particularly amongst young people, is creating vulnerabilities that extend beyond the country's economic challenges. Now, he says that the intelligence agency has observed a worrying trend in which unemployed graduates are now becoming susceptible to exploitation as they search for opportunities outside of Botswana. And among the cases identified by the agency are young Botswana who have reportedly been trafficked to the Russia-Ukraine conflict after being lured by promises of employment and better financial prospects. Now, according to the spy chief, the economic hardship in the country now leaves young people vulnerable to trafficking, as well as organized crime and other high-risk activities, making unemployment not only a social and economic issue, but also a matter of national security. Now, he warned that similar socio-economic pressures have contributed to instability in several African countries where unemployment, particularly amongst young people, has fueled unrest, criminal activity, as well as recruitment into armed groups. And so security agencies across the region are now working with other government institutions to identify emerging threats and protect vulnerable citizens. However, Mogojwe says that law enforcement alone cannot resolve this problem, and he argues that sustainable economic growth as well as job creation remain the most effective long-term solutions. And so he told the committee that addressing youth unemployment is going to require coordinated efforts across government, across the private sector, as well as other stakeholders in order to create meaningful employment opportunities, as well as reduce the risks that are associated with prolonged joblessness.
Now, the next story is quite interesting, Rorisang, because we do remember there being significant medicine shortages in Botswana. However, at the same time, Botswana has had to destroy about 95 million pula worth of expired medicines.
Botswana continues to grapple with persistent medicine shortages in public health facilities, and so this makes the revelation that government has destroyed more than 95 million pula worth of expired medicine particularly striking. And this disclosure has actually raised questions about how medicines could expire while hospitals and clinics continue to report shortages of essential drugs. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Tapo Machacha, says that the expired medicines were destroyed at the central medical stores in line with the standard procedures to prevent expired pharmaceutical products from entering the healthcare system. And the medicines that were expired were reportedly surplus stock that was not utilized before reaching the end of its shelf life. And at the same time, shortages have persisted because medicines that expired were not necessarily the same products that were in short supply. And so health officials are attributing part of the country's challenges or procurement challenges of medicines and the shortages of medicines to the use of intermediaries or the middlemen in the supply chain of medicines, saying that these additional layers have actually inflated costs and contributed to the inefficiencies in the procurement system. President Boko has also similarly argued that the weaknesses in Botswana's procurement system have also played a significant role in these persistent medicine shortages across the country. And so to address this problem, government says that supplies of essential medicines used to treat NCDs or non-communicable diseases have already been distributed nationwide. And so authorities now say that they have begun diversifying procurement by sourcing from international partners, including the United Arab Emirates, where medicines or pharmaceutical products are believed to be up to 40% cheaper than those obtained through traditional supply channels. However, despite these interventions, shortages remain, especially for several critical items, including IV fluids, asthma medication, sexual and reproductive health medicines, eye care products, surgical gloves, bandages, as well as other medical consumables that are necessary in the medical supply chain. And so the current stock levels of medicines that are available in Botswana currently are expected to last for up to 7 months only as the government continues to stabilize the country's medicine supply chain, as well as reform its procurement processes and hopefully address in the near future the persistent shortages of medication across public health institutions in Botswana.
All right, Rorisang, you're going to close off the show for us on DSTV 2 at 5, GOtv 25, 1up2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. Keeping in mind, Africa Good Morning returns tomorrow with the news from the broader African continent, as well as the South Africa report delivered by Ari Hochad. But for now, Letsile Tebogo, Botswana's Olympic 200-meter champion, has returned home to prepare for the new season. Suraja Kanaka.
The sprint star, Letsile Tebogo, who also serves as Orange Brand Botswana, has taken time to recover after several months of competition on the global circuit before resuming training for upcoming international events. Now, Tebogo's return follows another busy season in which she continues to compete against some of the world's top sprinters, further cementing his status as one of Botswana's most accomplished athletes. And this break will allow the Olympic champion to rest, to recover, as well as to prepare for the challenges of the new athletics calendar as he targets continued success on the international stage. Now, despite taking time away from the competition, Tebogo has continued to show support for Botswana's sporting community. He has rallied behind Team Botswana, currently competing at the ongoing Commonwealth Games in Scotland, and he encourages the athletes as they represent the country in a range of sporting disciplines. He wished the team well in their campaign and has expressed confidence in their ability to perform on the international stage and make the nation proud. Now, Letsile Tebogo's message comes as Botswana looks to build or to continue building its growing reputation in international sport, as well as with athletes across several disciplines who are competing for medals and national honors. And so as preparations for the new athletic season gets underway, attention will once again be on Team Botswana as the Olympic champion, including his teammates, look to add on to an already remarkable list of achievements.
For us, it's not about myself. We are a team. We work things together, because there is a group of people around me. So without them, there is no Letsile Tebogo. But with them, we create a special bond that we can give to the people. In terms of preparations, training, I think everything is falling into place. We just came home to just refresh because staying in Europe for too long affects the mental state of athletes, not just athletes, I think everybody, but I'll speak on the athlete's perspective because that's where I fit in. But this refreshment helped a lot, and I believe we are to plan when we are going to leave Botswana to go into Italy, into the European circuit, and redo everything to its perfection. And for the target of this season, definitely everybody wants to be an ultimate champion. I want to be an ultimate champion. Bayap wants to be ultimate. Colin, everybody wants to be an ultimate champion. So I believe it's going to be really an interesting one for Botswana and for us, as there is no major competition where now we have to become a team. We're already a team, but we have to do individual sports as of yet. But it has been just great, and good luck to the team that's there in the Commonwealth. Please represent us as one. Together we are together.